You go.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 2.5 Salesman. I'm your host, Mario, together with my partner, co-host Noam, where we talk all things revenue, specifically with today's revenue executives, CROs, heads of sales, and CMOs. Today's guest, Rolly Keenan. Rolly, author of the seminal book, CMO to CRO. If you haven't read it, please go and read it. And Rolly, currently the CRO of Tegrada. Rolly, welcome to the show.
Welcome,
Thanks for
Rolly.
having me.
Yeah. So before we dive into our topic, and our topic, I think a crucial one, I would say specifically, Noam, what you and I do, which is, both executive and managerial coaching, is if you are a chief sales or VP sales or CMO or head of client success, and you want to transition or you do transition into the chief revenue officer role, what are your gaps? What are your blind spots? What do you need to do? It kind of goes hand in hand, Rolly, with your books, though you focus more CMO to CRO. So please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about background, and let's dive straight into it.
Sure. So I reside here in Denver, but I was born and raised in Texas, and I got out of there as fast as I could. But thought I would be a professional athlete, and then a professional coach. And it was a toss-up with soccer and volleyball. I played pro amateur levels in both of those, and ended up working for the Olympic volleyball teams coming out of college. Figured out I was going to be broke if I kept going, so I quickly shifted to technology and took a sales job, was a cold calling sales rep for 10 years.
Wow, what a switch.
Did 500,000 cold calls, got bored in the middle of that, got my MBA, and sort of made an MBA in marketing and entrepreneurship. So I kind of made my way into becoming a CRO, combining all my revenue responsibilities with my newfound marketing knowledge, and went to work in management consulting. And I've been a CRO now for 7 years.
What position did you play, soccer/volleyball?
In soccer?
Mm-hmm.
Soccer, I was a right midfielder.
Oh, okay. Like David Beckham. There we go.
Yeah.
All righty.
Just like Beckham.
It's the tattoos. It's
just
the
like
tattoos.
him.
Yeah.
Not without any of the actual talent, but yeah.
All right. So let's dive. I would say head first. Let's piggyback a little bit on your book, CMO to CRO. My first question is, when you talk to today's CMOs, what is the number one, I would say, blind spot, the number one delusion they all have when they step from the CMO role into the chief revenue officer role?
So I would say, if we're talking about CMOs specifically, I mean, you can kind of take this to any of the roles really, but
probably,
what's important to understand, and again, can generally be applied, but success in one role does not mean success in another role.
True.
Especially when the span of control increases. So that alone is enough for pause to say, okay, how am I going to do in this new role? And then often, in my experience, CMOs are domain experts. So they came up as a marketing this, a marketing that, to eventually become CMO. And so they have this functional sort of.
You mean like industry expertise?
Sometimes just functional. Like, I know how to spin up, campaigns. I know how to do advertising. And their industry tends to guide that, right? So if you are in the industrial world and you worked your way up through marketing to CMO, then you're like really knowledgeable about events and that kind of stuff, because you do go to trade shows and all that. Whereas if you're like come right out of SaaS and you're a CMO, then you're like I know where to buy my lists and, run campaigns and stay out of trouble in my email marketing. And, but you tend to be, in my experience, people that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of CMOs regularly, weekly, they tend to just know that. And what's, interesting about when you kind of move from CMO to CRO is just this span of control, where now it's not just your ad guys and your social media guys and your this, but now you've got a whole different demands. The role demands in sales are really different. So how do you manage those people? And your role demands in success, really different. Your role demands in support, really different. So understanding that, hey, this isn't just a bigger team,
But
it's just a bunch of more different kind of motion in these areas.
Okay. So no, you've coached a fair amount of revenue guys, right? Especially ones transitioning into CRO roles. So what I find fascinating, especially Rolly, what I find fascinating with your answer, and I thought about it a lot, is the moment you go into that role, you begin doing things that are very familiar to you. And then how would you even learn? Like, you did marketing for 20 years and now you're a effing CMO. So how do you run different sales motions when you never did that, right?
I would say that there's something, there's something. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Okay. The vast majority of chief revenue officers I coached, let's say in the past 10 years, most of them came from sales. And when they come from sales, they got the credentials, right? It's like in the army. Okay. So someone becomes a chief commander, whatever title, now it doesn't matter if you're British, US, whatever army. And then you had your fair share of fighting, you're being respected by the people that report to you. Now, the chief revenue officer, if this person comes from sales, then they get respect. And therefore people, follow orders and follow what this person recommends. If they come from marketing, and again, this is my notion on it, and I'd love, I love Rolly, I'd love your opinion on it. The way I've seen it, that if it doesn't matter if it's from marketing, it's from anything else, non-sales. What happens is that this person that steps into this position needs to do something different, strong in character, that will demonstrate to sales this person knows what he's doing. Because without it, as we say, nobody counts them.
You mean people who come CROs who have sales background, much easier to get the buy-in of the entire revenue team?
Get this example. I'm an account manager. I'm a key account. I'm handling a major account for the company. Basically, I'm printing money for the company. And then this, whatever, as we in German, they're called Lack, I think it's a Lackapfel, which means like a nice, tidy ape, right? Steps into this position, has a fancy car, a fancy office, a very nice, secretaries. And then suddenly this guy will tell me what to do. Pardon my French, but he can fuck himself, right? He doesn't know what he's doing. He didn't walk the mile. He didn't, he wasn't here in the trenches. He didn't make sales. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And it doesn't matter if it comes from marketing, customer success, support, or whatever. There's a fair share of respect this guy needs to do something, guy or lady, whatever they need to do. So basically, this is me as a sales veteran. This is what, you want my respect, earn it. Okay, so for me, that's the discussion I'd like to start. That also leads to the next question: what this person needs to do to get counted for.
But to earn respect.
Yeah. Basically, think of it this way. We're very basic animals. You want my respect? You need to show me that you're better than I am because you're there and I'm here and I want your seat.
Yeah. Salespeople are not shy of calling anyone out
No,
anytime.
no, no.
Rolly, what's your take on this?
Well, I think there's trade-offs, and finding a CRO is just like finding a CEO.
Yeah.
Finding a CRO is not like finding a head of sales, because there's one, there's one way to talk about it, which we just covered, of like earn my respect. And then there's my world, which is I need this person to be successful. And to me, those are actually different. So people that come from sales, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, because it's been a long time since I used this word, but it kept coming to mind when I was listening. Chutzpah of right.
Yeah.
Come from sales. If you've been successful, whether a head of sales or a salesperson or both, you have this kind of chutzpah, like you have like this courage and all that. That is not generally what people in marketing have. It's just not.
We call it you have an opinion.
You have, I think it's more than that, because I think there's a lot of super opinionated people in marketing. But think about like the ask. If I'm a new CRO, I've got a comp plan, I've got, targets. The amount of like courage to be like, I'm on the hook for things I don't control, right? I'm in charge, but I'm not the one selling to that customer, and I'm not the one doing the marketing, and I'm leading it, but you got to have a hell of a lot of courage, which is the same for a CEO or COO or these sort of typical C-level jobs. Head of marketing, you can almost just be a domain expert and be the biggest wimp,
Yeah.
ever, but you're really technically good. Now, the trade-off and less fun thing to talk about is in marketing, different than sales. In marketing, you're dealing with a bunch of very different people. You've got your very technical people in marketing, you've got your very creative people, and so you get good at managing motions of people that are so different and removing obstacles for them, like what leaders should be doing. In sales, you can be like a one-trick pony, like I'm just all about like running through walls, and right. And so the trade-off there is that person who becomes a CRO struggles often to understand that not everybody is a sales team. They're not like that.
Not
You
every
have to be
problem is a nail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always tell people one of the books I want to write is I'm a hammer, so you're a nail. It's like, but yeah. So there's
So
there's a trade-off.
what do you so okay, let's quickly talk about gaps, right? So we touched a little bit of what are the marketing gaps. So what are the sales gaps and what are client success? Because the least amount of CROs come from client success. Client success has long had this reputation. They're touchy-feely, hugs and kisses. But it's just a lot more than that, right? Like Noam and I are currently working with a company where, to be honest, head of client success is a beast. Like, I have no idea why she's in client success, to be perfectly honest. Like, she's an animal, like phenomenal. And yet, so what would be the gaps for each three? Like we touched a little bit, right, on marketing.
Yeah.
You need to prove yourself, man. You have like 20, 30, however many dogs ready to bite heads off.
I mean, client success often is thought of as not sales. I have disagreed since it became a thing. Client success is is often staffed with and led by very service-oriented people, which I think is a big mistake also. You know, client success, I
We are
think,
in agreement with that.
yeah, I
Not
think
sure what.
client success is like, you know, you got to get people to renew and you got to show the value and you got to, like, this is all sales stuff. But often it's just full of people who don't have a lot of courage. They really can't do sales, but they like customers, and it's just a bad situation. And you know,
But it's a
every client
bad.
success person I talk to would disagree with me. No, my team's not like that, you know, but still.
But it is exactly like that.
But it's unfortunate. It's not that by design. It's this is just my opinion. Of course, it's that way. I would say by peer pressure, right? So if you didn't make it in sales, you are whatever happened, but we like you, want to keep you. Okay, let's get you into client success, and you know.
Well, it's like
as you
client
said,
success. I'm going to say something that probably only makes me laugh, but client success is the HR of sales.
Wow, I like it.
That's where you go to die, you know, like
oh,
couldn't
oh,
make it, go to success. Couldn't
Well,
make it,
yeah.
go to HR.
Noam.
Well, I think, I'll
Uh,
I'll tell you the way I see it. Every decade we have something else that makes, let's say, that makes the switch. Take 20 years ago, it was the IT manager, or the IS manager that was, switch their, let's say, their role in life from a follower to a leader, right? So instead of I'll tell you what systems I need, you tell me what systems I need. Okay, I'll tell you my business needs and, figure it out. You're the expert. 10 years ago, it's the HR manager, right? These guys, instead of, I'll tell you that I need to recruit or train people, or let's have a party or something. These guys now expect, they're expected to lead the organization. They need to know, how, the next 5, 10 years, what will be the structure of the human resources function as a function, not as a group of people. And if you ask me, I think that this decade, it's the chief revenue officer, right? It's something else, this new function that came in. It was the role of the CEO, and suddenly it's not. And the CEO is not expected anymore to handle it, but someone else is expected to handle the alignment between sales and marketing.
and client success and
And
product.
and then what the hell is the responsibility of client success? Should they just on board? Are they going to be measured on upsales, cross sales, whatever, right? So basically, if you ask me, I think that, and by the way, I love it because 20 years it was the IT, 10 years it's the HR. Thank God, it's the sales, turn right now, and I'm happy that this is happening. My question here is: the chief revenue officer is real? Is this a real position? Is
I
this
mean,
real?
I mean, my slight exit ramp off of what you're saying is that I see the chief revenue officer as the head of client facing, customer facing things, all of them, whatever they happen to be in your organization. The
Yeah,
COO is the head of all internal things. And then there's a CFO who, does
yeah,
math, all that. But like, to me, it's not aligning anything. It's like, I have a plan for how we face outwardly. And the problem that I think it happened, going way back, I'm 50, I'll be 52 this year. So I've been around before a lot of this digital stuff was really good, is things have become so digital that now all of these things, marketing, support, these are all right in front of a customer. So
yeah,
they don't understand how they're disconnected or whatever, but we still, here's a head of marketing, here's your comp plan. it competes with the head of sales comp plan because he's another, or she's another leader of whatever. And I just think we didn't ever changed anything from back in the 80s and 90s. We didn't change it. We're like, oh, everybody's separate still, but it's not for the customer. They just see the business.
Well, look, one of the things that I encounter, especially when I do executive coaching, specifically with CEOs, is for me, and I aspire to, if you guys know who A.G. Lafley is, I think he's the former CEO of Johnson and Johnson. He said, what are the only 4 things that a CEO can do? So he says, answering time and time again a 2-part question. What business are we in? And what business are we not in? And balancing return on investment, yield versus what are we investing in the company? 3, values, standards, and culture in the organization. And most importantly, interpreting the meaningful outside. So maybe with the CRO role, as you Rolly said, CROs are outward facing and CEO is inward facing. Maybe the CEO is kind of I don't know. From the work I do, it doesn't seem that way. But maybe some of the CEOs that hire chief revenue officers forgot that their main job is to interpret the meaningful outside, to talk to the customers, to sell, to bring in the biggest deals, and to actually have a quota. You kind of forgot about that.
Well, I see it as a problem because take whatever example you're going to take and analyze it, right? So take the example of a CEO that was a VP sales or head of sales. And then so you got a CEO, a sales CEO, as I call it, as opposed, let's say, to a financial CEO or an operational CEO or
technical.
All technical CEO, right? Depends.
Yeah.
So and again, we're talking about, let's say, not small organization, not even mid or bigger organization, where chief revenue officer has meat in it. And then what happens is, if this is a sales person that became a CEO, obviously he or she will continue to sell. They will be the best salesperson. They will do the, business development. They will run the show. They'll be running sales meeting. They'll be highly invested in sales because this is their strong, pillar. And for me, I'm saying, if you're bringing a chief revenue officer, then what? Then the CEO needs to kind of ditch this type of work and do something else, whatever you say. Or is the CEO now expected to be this person? From my experience, if the person that is entering this chief revenue officer role is not a salesperson, then it's some kind of a clerk. Again, I don't mean to offend anybody, but this is the way I get my feedback from people. They're kind of clerks serving the organization, and they're more focused on processes and internal alignment, and then trying to control the pack of wolves of sales that are eating, the marketing and everybody else alive. And they're kind of internal people. And then if you got a CEO that is the salesperson, then he's kind of, over bypassing the CEO. So there's a lot of, it's not even job description here. You see what I'm saying? You're taking something new into something that works, and then you entirely change it. So from my perspective, from my question here, and again, it's not the job role. It's where is your heavy lifting focus going to be as a chief revenue officer? What are you going to be doing differently? The very first CRO that I've met is a Tunisian guy living in Amsterdam. I'm not going to name the company. It's a while back. And then he shared with me that nobody counts nothing, obviously. So he sends presentation, nobody opens. He does meeting, nobody shows up. Right? And he was extremely frustrated. And why? Because the CEO was the top sales guy. So Again, my question here, what does a CRO needs to do in order to be counted for? Is this an external consultant working for the company from within the company, aligning, processes, meeting, maximizing on value, whatever? What's their role?
Well,
Sorry, tough,
yeah, no, I mean, anecdotes are great springboards to talk about what is actually happening in the world right now. I mean, first of all, that sounds like an awful company. So just and the reason I say that is because, often, I mean, it makes for great banter and like white papers and podcasts and right, but the reality is a CEO has a team.
Yeah.
And that CEO is very outward facing to investors and to the outside world in that way. Not to sell anything necessarily, but they have a big outward facing role and they run a team. So they need to remove obstacles for the CRO, for the CMO, for the
Okay.
CEO. That's their whole world. How good is my team? And then of course, the organization, depending on how big it is, can be super complex and very, and so you need a certain kind of person for that. And, a CEO who's like, well, I'm the top sales guy, so I'm not supporting the CRO sounds really dumb and like that guy's in the wrong job. The CEO's in the wrong job, period. Like, so that doesn't make any sense. But it happens all the time
Yeah,
and we
that's what
see
I'm
it all
saying
the
here. You're
time.
right. Yeah.
And, and it's too often that people don't understand that CEOs, and I keep saying demands of the role because that's like a scientific phrase of behavioral economics. Like, what are the demands of that role, and hire for it. And like that is, what is the demands of the role of a CRO? The way I define it is running what we call the modern front office, or what I like to call MoFo. Like who's running the modern front office, which is very digital and it includes all these things depending on what kind of business you're in. And then who's running the back office, which includes like tech, so like a head of IT and operations and finance. That's it. And you can have other stuff, but if you don't have somebody who runs that, then then you're all over the place and you run into problems with like, but who's doing that? And these guys aren't aligned. And I mean, there's no aligning marketing and sales because they're on the same team,
Hmm.
so
Well,
maybe,
that's problem number one.
yeah, like, so I hear, I love that marketing and sales alignment creates a lot of jobs for consultants, but it's a never ending task because they're never going to be aligned.
No.
I mean, I
The
have this conversation
only
all the time.
the only way to get marketing, sales, and client success aligned is to have everyone on the same compensation plan.
No,
Well, and
but
we talk about in the book,
yeah,
we
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about like essentially you need to have at least 1 out of 3 of their top comp is all the same across the whole CEO's team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you can get 2, that'd be great. After that, it becomes very sort of functional specific, but can you get aligned? Because like, I mean, people just, I think they just don't believe me. Like even my wife, Veronica, I don't think believes me when I bring this up, but I'm like I have heads of sales and CMOs that literally won't talk to each other.
Yes.
And we're talking big companies. We're not talking about a company you've never heard of. I could just start listing them off if I wanted to get in trouble. But like they are like, I don't talk to that guy. Okay, well, how are we gonna work on this? She's like, we'll just do it secretly and then spring it on them. Like these are giant, over $1 billion companies, and I know exactly why it's happening. I mean, they're just incentivized in different ways, and they don't care. They're like grabbing an actor for a movie and saying that's how we're going to get people to watch this movie is everybody knows who this person is.
Yeah.
It's like they go out and find stars, all right, you're a star, now run it. And they don't care about how anyone else thinks about them. They're the star. So it to me, alignment is like too late. Too late.
Yeah.
Well, what CRO needs to click with the person he's reporting to. That's the CEO.
Yeah.
That's the first. They need to be on the same effing page.
Yeah.
So if you have marketing background, you think in one way. You have sales background, you think in another. And then, as you said, Rolly, God forbid, if you come from the client success background, then you have a third way of looking at it, right? But you need to click with the CEO. I think that's the first thing. And
Yeah,
everything goes like, what is his vision? What is his or her true north? Where is this company heading? And what do I need to do to ensure success? As you said, when we begin talking about alignment, probably too late.
Yeah, and there's like we kind of wrote the book that we wrote laying out steps. Like how could you you don't ever like, hey, we want to create a company from scratch. How do we do it? Be like, I know, is it, but that's not how it is. You're coming into a business that's been around. So what do you do first and second? And our plan is like it could take a few years depending on what industry you're in, because some industries like retail change all the time. So you could do a lot every quarter. If you sell giant printers to like 50 customers as your entire addressable market, that might take 5 years to change that company because it doesn't move very fast.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you can take little steps, but eventually you're probably going to have to turn over some of the stars you hired who have very specific incentive plans that don't align with others. So there's a way to get aligned, but like if somebody's like, hey, I need a sales and marketing alignment coach, I mean, I could do that. I could do a whole career doing that, and I would never be at a loss for clients. That total addressable market is what? Everything? Like
Everybody.
everybody.
Everybody. Yeah.
I can get funding for that.
Yeah. So, speaking of sales and marketing alignment, right? Apart from aligning compensation plans, what do you see is working from the CRO point of view, right?
I think that one thing that I don't see enough of is this idea of iterative sort of communication and adjustment. So if I'm launching something in marketing sales, easy to talk about. So I'll just use that as an example. I'm running a new campaign. As soon as sales gets that lead and they notice that the last 5 leads they have are people that think they can buy something for $5,000 and the minimum price of that product is $100,000, they don't need to wait till the year's over to talk about it, which is what they do. And they're like, hey, this train has left the station, so you can't change this campaign now. And if you operate that way, who cares if everybody reports to the CRO? So the CRO has to set stuff up where there's constant like, hey, how's that going? Oh, we need to change our messaging. Why do we, or who we're targeting or whatever, to make sure that we're not delivering awful leads to you. Because if that starts in January, by end of February, sales is no longer paying attention to your leads. You're like this.
Yeah.
So you just broke it. But, I was on a call, extremely long story in just a couple of sentences. I was on a call in October with the CMO about just her team. We're not even talking about any other function, but her team is like 8 different teams. And she's in October going, wait, what's going on? Why are you doing that? Wait. And I'm like, this is awful. Now, this person also won CMO of the year for something. And I'm like, that's impossible. That must be like a paid for award, because like this is one of the worst situations I've ever seen. And then their decision at the end of the year was to cover up that entire presentation, burn it so no one ever sees it, and not work on any of it. So,
But digitally burn it.
What's that?
Digitally burn it.
Yeah. I mean, and this is somebody who everybody knows that person's name, that's in marketing, and it's like, it just sort of how it goes. Like, yeah, just run it. I know how to run perfect marketing. If it doesn't work, that's not my fault. But I think the CROs, to really make it work, they have to think like, how do we have the whole team constantly iterating so that by the time we get to summer, we are rocking, because we've tweaked and turned and done some things. I mean, we're really moving. And it too often, mostly because of the simplest thing, because the incentives of that executive are so off. I'm supposed to get leads or whatever. That's my job. It's their problem to close them.
Yeah.
Much you talk about it, it's still happening. And CEOs can have their expertise, but I would say I was dying to yell out in the middle of somebody talking, just because I'm like, that's one of those things that bothers me so much, is like, if I'm a CEO, obviously my background is heavy sales, and I've got marketing and stuff too, but real heavy like that. If I'm a CEO who's like, I know all about sales, I'm already not doing my job right. Like, that is not at all my job.
If you begin a sentence, I know everything, put in blank, then come on, man.
I got good I probably have better questions to my head of sales or my CRO. I probably have much better questions, but like, that is, that my job is not to groom my like CRO to be like,
I think maybe this is the heart of the topic. The biggest gap of CMO, VP sales, or client success that step into the role of CRO is what questions I need to ask teams that I have not run. So if I'm come from marketing, what questions I need to be asking my VP sales and my client success in order to get to the bottom of it, in order to really know what the hell is happening and what to do.
I've been talking a lot, so maybe I should be quiet.
No, you've been strangely quiet this entire conversation, man.
I'm trying to practice, being quiet. It doesn't really work. The thing is this, and again, I find it, from podcast to podcast, I find it, I'm coming to the same, you could say, conclusion here. At this level, it's all about leadership, right? Asking questions to teams you never managed, that's leadership. Okay, in every C-level company, government, entity, whatever, you want to be successful, you will run shows you never run before. So you need to know, asking questions, teams you never worked with. You need to be a true leader to be able to do that. If you're not a true leader, you're not going to be able to do that. End of story. So the way I see it is, if you're stepping into a CRO's role, if you're not, let's say, equipped with the right leadership skills, you're going to fail, because you're not going to open, let's say, the current, the needed space to run the show. Because then what happens, you got pressure from the CEO, and then you got a pressure from your peers, let's say the, I'll use Rolly's, examples, the internal office, right? And then you got pressure from all over. You're not creating space for your people to flourish. And then you're kind of just being, let's say, you're the you're the pigeon, right? You're sending the message from one side to the other, and then you're just doing some ping pong, and you're into alignment, and then you call consultants because you need alignment consultancy. So basically, the way I see it, it's all about leadership. If you're taking a CRO role, you need to be a leader, a true one. And then if you're coming from sales, will have respect. I'm coming to the very first comment of from the beginning of our podcast. You're gonna have the respect of the salespeople, but you're not gonna have the respect of the marketing team. You're not gonna have the respect of the support people or customer success. And even if they're not very heavy with the opinion level in the company, you still need to satisfy, let's say, their feelings, their true emotions so you need to become a leader. Sorry, you need to apply leadership principles. That's it. This is the way I see it.
And it just reminds me of when I went into consulting after I got my MBA. And when I was at Northwestern, so all the major consulting firms basically have an office in the building, right? Trying to get you to work for them when you graduate. And I went, instead of just management consulting, I went into research-based management consulting, which is different and fit my personality. I'm a father of 6 adult kids now. And it's the same way that I parent even now, which I thought would be over when they were 18. I was wrong about that. But like, I ask a lot of questions. And yes, my experience and I have some expertise and all that can guide my hypothesis, but I don't tell people this is what works and what, I say, well, tell me this, when I took my CRO role at Tegrita, I interviewed everyone in the company before I came to any conclusions. And I know how to do thematic analysis on an interview. I know how to figure stuff out from what they say, but I don't know. I kind of approach any team like, I don't know anything. Tell me. I know what I know, but it has nothing to do with you necessarily. So, being a good leader / just being a good thought partner, or something like that. I don't even know what the right word is, but I come from that. It reminds me of being a research consultant.
It's called endless patience.
No, but I think
parenting's always fun to like do an analogy because it's like comical, like your kid does something and you're like, that was stupid, but you don't really want to say that because that doesn't help.
No.
You want to be like, tell me why you did that. What happened before? What happened, And then
you're listening to my private conversations now from yesterday. What the hell, man?
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. All right. So let's quickly wrap it up. This was, I think, a wonderful conversation. Rolly, at the end of every podcast, Noam and I give 30 seconds to our guests to plug something. So if you want to plug either a cause, or if you're hiring, or even your book, 30 seconds go and we will sign off.
Okay. So I'll plug something new that we're doing at Tegrita. And it's one of those things. It's almost like a research-based thing on my own thing, where I started to ask questions to clients and found out that one of the, we do a lot of rev ops strategy and consulting and execution and all that. But what I found, what clients like the most about us is how we manage all the work. So it's a bit project management, a bit account management, but we're starting to basically attempt to sell it as that, like put us in the middle of your entire revenue operation even if we're not doing much of it, but we orchestrate because we're really good at it. So if you want to hear about that from us, we happen to be outstanding in that area.
There we go. If you need revenue ops and generally just revenue coaching and consulting, Rolly's LinkedIn will be in the description of this video. And if you are getting the link from LinkedIn, he's going to be tagged. So please reach out to Rolly and buy his book. His book is really, really good. Yeah. All right. Well, Rolly, thanks again for joining us. I do hope this conversation was up to par.
It was awesome. It was fun.
There we go. And to everyone watching, sticking, so far we kind of went, almost 50 minutes. So this is kind of a new one. Usually
I
these
like it.
episodes are, between 30 and 35. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with us. And until next time, go out and sell.
Make money.
Ciao.